Welcome to a deep dive into the Comal County housing market,
All right.
specifically zip code 78130.
Okay.
You sent over some really interesting
Oh,
data,
yeah.
a real estate market forecast report,
Mm-hmm.
and some historical numbers from Zillow.
Yeah.
And I have to say, what's popping out to me
What's that?
are these predictions.
Mm-hmm.
For the next year and the next decade,
Okay.
they're telling two very different stories.
Yeah, it is fascinating, isn't it? It's almost like looking through two different lenses at the same place.
Right.
And that's exactly what we're going to unpack for you.
Yeah.
We want to make sure you understand what these numbers really mean for your situation, whether you're buying, selling, or just trying to make sense of it all.
Because on one hand, the forecast suggests that prices might dip a bit in the next 12 months, but then it turns around and predicts strong growth over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So how do we make sense of these seemingly contradictory predictions?
Well, the key is to remember that real estate moves in cycles,
Okay.
just like the economy or even fashion trends,
Yeah.
It has its upswings and downswings.
Right.
And if we only focus on the short term, we might miss the bigger picture.
Okay.
It's kind of like looking at a single wave and missing the whole tide.
So we could be catching Comal County at a low point in the cycle,
Potentially.
but the long-term tide might still be coming in strong.
That's possible.
I'm really curious to dig into the details of what's driving these predictions.
Absolutely. Let's start with what's happening right now.
Okay.
Those short-term indicators that are suggesting a potential price decline.
Okay.
One of the biggest red flags is the recent drop in home values.
Okay.
We're looking at a 4.4% decrease year over year,
Right.
which translates to home values dropping from $334,527 to $319,791 dip.
Okay, so that's a pretty significant dip.
Yeah.
And if I'm understanding this right, it's likely due to a combination of factors, right?
Exactly. Think of it like a recipe for a buyer's market.
Okay.
You've got inventory levels that are way up, 28.7% higher than the 7-year average.
Okay.
That means there are a lot more homes for sale
Right.
than buyers ready to snack them up.
Yeah.
And when you have more supply than demand, guess what happens?
Prices start to come down.
Exactly.
Okay.
And to add fuel to that fire, we're seeing a lot of sellers reducing their asking prices.
Oh, really?
26.3% to be precise.
Wow.
That's significantly higher than the historical average.
Yeah.
And it tells us that sellers are getting a little more, realistic
Yeah.
about what they can expect to get in this current climate.
Ouch. That's got to be tough for sellers.
It is.
And I imagine high mortgage rates aren't helping matters either, right?
You're absolutely right. Mortgage rates are currently sitting at 6.43%,
Wow.
which is quite a bit higher than the 5-year average.
Yeah.
This makes it harder for buyers to qualify for loans
Right.
and can really impact their purchasing power. I see. Plus, it makes those monthly payments a lot more expensive.
So it's like a double whammy.
Yeah,
Higher rates make homes less affordable
right.
and can shrink the pool of potential buyers.
Exactly.
But you mentioned earlier that there's at least one positive indicator in this short-term picture.
Yes, and it's an important one.
Okay.
Despite all these factors pushing prices down,
Yeah.
homes in Comal County are still selling relatively quickly.
Okay.
The days on market metric is actually 18.5% below the long-term average,
Yeah.
which tells us that there's still a good level of buyer interest out there.
Okay, so even though prices are dipping, people are still eager to buy in Comal County.
It seems that way.
I'm starting to see why the long-term forecast is so optimistic.
Yeah.
But what exactly is driving that long-term growth potential? Is it just that people love the area?
It's certainly part of the appeal,
Yeah.
but there are some strong economic fundamentals at play here too.
Okay.
The median household income in Comal County is over $87,000, which is significantly higher than the national average.
Okay.
And on top of that, the poverty rate is pretty low at 6.1%.
Okay.
These are strong indicators of a healthy and prosperous community,
Right.
which tends to attract more residents and drive up demand for housing.
That makes sense. People with more disposable income are more likely to buy homes.
Yeah.
And a thriving economy attracts new residents seeking job opportunities and a higher quality of life.
Absolutely.
But does that mean everyone can afford to live in Comal County?
That's a great question, and it brings us to the crux of the issue,
Yeah.
affordability. Even with a robust economy, the reality is that home prices in Comal County are currently a bit stretched
Okay.
relative to income.
I see.
The home value to income ratio,
Yeah.
which measures how affordable homes are for the average person,
Okay.
sits at 3.64x.
Okay.
Now, that's not drastically different from the national average, but it does mean that homeownership might be out of reach for some potential buyers, especially first-time buyers or those with lower incomes.
I see. So even though there's a lot to love about Comal County,
Yeah,
affordability could be a barrier for some folks.
it could.
And the report also mentioned something about homes being overvalued in Comal County.
Uh-huh.
Can you explain what that means exactly? I'm not sure I fully grasped the concept.
It's a bit like this.
Okay.
Imagine a used car that's priced higher than its actual worth based on its age,
Okay.
condition,
Okay.
and features.
Okay.
That's essentially what overvaluation means in the housing market,
Got it.
based on historical trends and economic fundamentals.
Uh-huh.
Home prices in Comal County are currently estimated to be about 3.3% higher
Wow.
than what the market would typically support.
So it's like a price bubble.
You could say that.
And at some point, it could potentially burst,
It's possible.
leading to a further correction in prices.
That's a possibility.
Okay.
And it's one of the factors that makes the short-term outlook a bit uncertain. We have this tension between the potential for further price declines due to overvaluation and the underlying strength of the local economy.
It's a lot to consider.
It is.
We've got this push and pull between the short-term decline, driven by things like high inventory and mortgage rates,
Yeah,
and the long-term growth potential,
right.
fueled by those strong demographics and economic factors you mentioned.
Exactly.
It's starting to feel like a real estate puzzle.
It is a puzzle, but the pieces are starting to fit together, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Understanding these different forces at play helps us make sense of why the forecasts paint such contrasting pictures.
Absolutely. It's like we're peeling back the layers of the onion to reveal the complexities of this market.
That's a good analogy.
I'm guessing this also has implications for investors who might be eyeing Comal County, right?
You're on the right track, the dynamics we've discussed so far. Definitely factor into the equation for anyone considering Comal County as an investment opportunity. But before we jump into that side of things, I'd like to bring in the broader national trends.
Okay.
They play a surprisingly big role in what happens locally.
That sounds like a great place to pick up in part 2.
Sounds good.
So for our listener, we'll be back soon to delve into those national trends
Okay.
and how they might be influencing Comal County, especially as you're thinking about affordability.
All right.
Stay tuned.
We'll see you then. So, when we talk about affordability,
Yeah.
there's this really interesting trend happening nationally that's impacting local markets like Comal County.
Okay.
It's what some are calling a migration freeze.
We touched on that briefly in the last part,
Yeah.
but I have to admit the whole concept is a bit puzzling to me.
Okay.
It seems counterintuitive
Yeah.
that fewer people moving would actually make affordability worse in some areas.
It does seem paradoxical at first glance, doesn't it?
It does.
But think of it this way.
Okay.
Imagine a popular high-cost city
Okay.
where people are constantly moving in and out.
That flow helps to keep the housing market somewhat balanced.
Okay, so a steady churn of people coming and going helps regulate things.
Exactly.
I can see that.
Now imagine that flow slows down dramatically.
Okay.
Fewer people are moving into those expensive areas,
Right.
maybe because they're priced out or remote work options are opening up,
Right.
or any number of reasons. You think that less demand would lead to lower prices, right?
That's what I'd expect.
Yeah.
Less competition means sellers have to adjust their expectation.
But here's where the freeze comes in.
Okay.
At the same time that fewer people are moving in, fewer people are moving out of those same expensive areas.
Right.
They might be staying put because they locked in low mortgage rates years ago.
Right.
Or they can't afford to upsize in their current market, or just don't want to deal with the uncertainty of a move right now.
So you're saying that while the influx of new buyers slows down,
Yeah,
the supply of available homes also shrinks because people are staying put?
that creates a bottleneck.
Precisely.
Oh,
And that bottleneck can actually keep prices from dropping as much as they might otherwise, even in the face of those affordability challenges.
I see.
It's a complex dynamic.
It is.
And it's impacting markets all over the country, including right here in Texas.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
It's not just about how many people want to move.
right.
It's also about how many people are actually able to move.
Exactly.
So how does this migration freeze specifically impact affordability in Comal County?
Well, we've seen a significant influx of people moving to Texas over the past few years,
Right.
drawn by factors like the strong job market, lower cost of living,
Yeah.
at least compared to some other states,
Right.
and the warm climate.
Of course.
But even with that influx, we're starting to see signs of this freeze taking hold.
So are you saying that even in a place like Comal County,
Yeah.
which has seen strong population growth, this freeze is putting upward pressure on prices and making things less affordable?
It's a contributing factor, certainly. And it's something to keep in mind as we analyze those long-term projections.
Right.
While the overall economic outlook for Comal County is positive,
Yeah.
this migration freeze, coupled with the existing affordability challenges we discussed,
Right.
could mean that home prices might not rise as dramatically as some might expect.
It's almost like there's a tug of war happening.
Yeah.
The strength of the local economy and the desirability of the area are pulling prices up, while this freeze and the affordability constraints are holding them back.
That's a great way to visualize it.
Yeah.
And it's why we need to consider both the local and national trends
Right.
when trying to make sense of the housing market.
Speaking of national trends, I'm curious about how investors are reacting to all of this.
Yeah.
We talked about how returns in Comal County are expected to be average over the next decade.
Right.
But are investors shifting their strategies in light of these market dynamics?
Absolutely. One trend we're seeing is a move towards diversification. Investors are spreading their bets, so to speak, by exploring a wider range of asset classes, including things like multifamily properties, commercial real estate,
Right.
and even real estate investment trusts.
REITs?
So instead of putting all their eggs in the single-family home basket,
Yeah.
they're branching out.
Exactly. Diversification helps to mitigate risk
Okay.
and protect portfolios against market fluctuations,
Right.
which is especially important in uncertain times.
That makes sense. And we also talked about how the cap rate in Comal County is relatively low,
Yeah.
meaning rental income might not be as lucrative as in some other markets.
Right.
Are investors factoring that into their decisions?
Definitely. And it's driving some investors to look beyond traditional rental properties
Okay.
and explore other strategies like fix and flips or even short-term rentals,
Okay.
which can potentially offer higher returns, albeit with different risks and considerations.
So investors are getting creative and finding new ways to navigate this evolving market. They are.
It sounds like they're also embracing technology to gain an edge, right? I've heard a lot about the rise of PropTech lately.
You're right. Technology is playing an increasingly important role in the real estate industry.
I see.
PropTech companies are developing innovative solutions
Yeah.
for everything from property management
Right.
to data analytics to virtual tours.
Virtual tours, that's a great example.
Yeah.
I could see how those would be especially useful in a market where people might be relocating
Yeah.
from other states or even countries.
Absolutely. And data analytics is becoming increasingly sophisticated,
Right.
allowing investors to crunch massive amounts of data to identify promising markets, assess property values, and make more informed decisions.
It's like having a crystal ball for real estate.
In a way.
But even with all this data and technology, I imagine there's still a human element to all of this.
You're absolutely right. Real estate is ultimately about people.
Right.
It's about finding places to live,
Yeah.
work, and build communities, and all these market trends, forecasts, and investment strategies should ultimately serve that human need.
Well said. And speaking of the human element,
Yeah,
I think it's important to acknowledge that not everyone is looking to buy or sell a home.
right.
Some people are perfectly content renting,
Uh-huh.
and that's a perfectly valid choice.
Absolutely. Renting offers flexibility, convenience,
Yeah.
and often lower upfront costs.
Right.
It's a great option for people who are not ready to commit to homeownership, prefer a more mobile lifestyle,
Right.
or simply want to avoid the responsibilities that come with owning a property.
And let's not forget that for some people, renting is simply the most affordable option.
Right.
It's important to remember that there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to housing.
You're so right. The best choice depends on individual circumstances,
Yeah.
financial situation, and personal preferences.
All right. So we've explored these national trends, the impact of the migration freeze, and how investors are adapting to this dynamic market. But I want to bring our focus back to Comal County,
Okay.
and specifically zip code 7813,
All right.
which is where you're considering buying a home, right?
Yes, that's right. And I'm really eager to dive into those hyper-local details.
Perfect. Because even within a specific zip code,
Yeah,
there could be significant variations from one neighborhood to the next.
exactly. Factors like proximity to schools,
Yeah.
Parks, transportation, and amenities can all influence property values and desirability, even within a relatively small geographic area.
So even if the overall market in Comal County is trending one way,
Yeah,
there might be pockets of strength or weakness within that market.
right.
I'm starting to see how crucial it is to really understand the nuances of the specific location you're interested in.
Absolutely. And that's where local expertise becomes invaluable.
Right.
A knowledgeable real estate agent who understands the ins and outs of the Comal County market can be a tremendous asset.
They can help you identify properties that meet your specific needs and budget,
Yeah,
negotiate effectively,
right.
and navigate the complexities of the transaction.
Exactly. And they can provide insights into things like neighborhood trends,
Okay.
upcoming developments, and even those subtle factors that might not be readily apparent
Yeah.
from online listings or market reports.
It sounds like finding the right real estate agent is almost as important as finding the right house.
It can be.
But before we delve into the specifics of neighborhoods and property types in Comal County,
Yeah.
I think it's important to acknowledge the elephant in the room,
Oh,
the psychological aspect of real estate.
well, that's a great point. Buying or selling a home is a highly emotional experience for most people.
It is.
It's not just a financial transaction.
Right.
It's a life decision that can be fraught with anxiety, excitement, and uncertainty.
That's so true. And those emotions can sometimes cloud our judgment
Yeah.
and lead us to make decisions that aren't necessarily in our best interest.
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of a bidding war or feel pressured to make an offer before you fully considered all the angles.
So how can we avoid letting our emotions get the better of us in such a high-stakes situation?
I think self-awareness is key.
Okay.
Recognizing our own biases and tendencies can help us make more rational decisions.
Right.
For example, if you know you're prone to impulsiveness,
Yeah.
it might be wise to set clear boundaries for yourself, like a maximum budget you're willing to stick to, no matter how tempting a property might be.
That's a great strategy.
Yeah.
And it also helps to have a trusted advisor,
Mm-hmm.
like a level-headed friend or a family member
Right.
who can offer an objective perspective and keep you grounded.
Absolutely. Having someone to bounce ideas off of
Yeah.
and to talk you down from the ledge, so to speak,
Right.
can be invaluable during those emotional highs and lows of a real estate transaction.
And sometimes the best decision is to simply walk away from a deal if it doesn't feel right, even if you've already invested time and energy into it.
Exactly. There's no shame in hitting the pause button, reassessing your priorities, and waiting for a better opportunity to come along.
Right.
It's better to be patient and make a well-informed decision than to rush into something you might regret later.
Well said. So as we transition to the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave our listener with this thought.
Right.
While the Comal County housing market, like any market,
Uh-huh.
has its complexities and uncertainties,
Right.
understanding the data,
Yeah.
the trends, and even your own emotional landscape can empower you to make informed choices
Right.
that align with your goals and your values.
That's a great takeaway, and we're here to help you navigate those complexities
Right.
and to provide you with the knowledge and insights you need to make those informed choices.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
where we'll zero in on those hyper-local details of Comal County, specifically zip code 78130, to help you gain a deeper understanding of what this market has to offer.
All right, so we're back
Here we are.
for the final part of our deep dive into the Comal County housing market.
Yeah.
And now we're going hyperlocal,
Right.
focusing specifically on zip code 78130.
Okay.
It's like we've zoomed in from the national picture
That's
down to the state level,
right.
and now we're right here on the street corner,
Okay.
ready to look at individual houses.
I like that analogy.
And I know you've done some digging into the different neighborhoods within 78130.
I have.
What stands out to you in terms of housing affordability
Okay.
and the types of properties available?
Well, one thing that's really interesting about 78130 is the diversity of housing options.
Yeah.
You've got everything from established neighborhoods with mature trees and larger lots to newer developments with more modern amenities.
Okay.
And of course, price points vary depending on the specific location and type of property.
Okay, so there's something for everyone.
It seems that way.
But it really comes down to finding the right fit for your needs and your budget.
Exactly.
Are there any particular neighborhoods within 78130 that are known for being more affordable?
There are definitely some pockets of affordability,
Okay.
especially if you're willing to consider homes that might need a little TLC or that are located a bit further from the heart of New Braunfels.
Okay.
For example, the neighborhoods on the outskirts of 78130,
Okay.
closer to the rural areas, tend to have lower price points compared to those closer to the city center or along the Guadalupe River.
That makes sense. You're often trading convenience and amenities for affordability.
Right.
But for some buyers, that trade-off might be well worth it.
Absolutely.
What about those newer developments you mentioned?
Yeah.
Are those typically more expensive?
They can be, especially those that offer high-end finishes,
Okay.
resort-style amenities, or are located in highly desirable areas.
Yeah.
But even within newer developments, you can sometimes find more affordable options. Perhaps townhomes or smaller single-family homes
Right.
that cater to first-time buyers or those looking for a more low-maintenance lifestyle.
So it sounds like it's all about doing your homework
Yeah,
and understanding what each neighborhood has to offer.
exactly.
And this is where having a good real estate agent on your side can make a world of difference, right?
Absolutely. A local expert can guide you towards the neighborhoods that best align with your priorities, whether that's affordability school districts, access to parks and recreation,
Right.
or a sense of community.
Yeah.
They can also help you navigate the nuances of different property types
Okay.
and make sure you're getting the best value for your money.
Speaking of property types, I'm curious about what's happening in the rental market in 78130.
Okay,
We know that rent growth has been relatively weak in Comal County overall,
right.
but does that hold true for this specific zip code?
It's a good question, and it's one that requires careful analysis. While it's true that Comal County hasn't seen the same robust rent growth as some other parts of Texas, the rental market in 78130 is actually a bit more nuanced.
Okay, so we can't just extrapolate from the county level data.
It's best not to.
What are some of those nuances?
Well, the demand for rentals in 78130 is relatively strong,
Okay.
driven by a combination of factors, including the influx of new residents, the presence of students attending Texas State University and nearby San Marcos,
Right.
and the appeal of the area for short-term vacation rentals.
So even though rent growth might not be skyrocketing, there's still a healthy demand for rentals in this particular zip code.
It appears so.
What does that mean for someone who's considering buying a property as an investment?
It suggests that finding tenants might not be as difficult as in some other markets.
Okay.
However, it's crucial to factor in those lower cap rates we discussed earlier.
Right.
The potential for appreciation might be attractive, but rental income might not be as robust, meaning investors need to carefully analyze their cash flow projections.
So it's a balancing act,
Yeah,
weighing the potential for appreciation against the reality of lower rental income.
exactly.
And as always, location matters.
It always is.
A property in a highly desirable neighborhood with strong rental demand might command higher rents and generate better cash flow,
Right.
even in a market with overall weak rent growth.
That's true.
Exactly. And that's why doing your due diligence is so important.
Can agree more.
Researching different neighborhoods,
Yeah.
understanding the local rental market dynamics, and crunching the numbers are essential steps for any savvy investor.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything we wanted to share
I think so.
about the Comal County housing market.
Yeah.
The special focus on zip code 78130.
Right.
It's been a deep dive indeed.
It has. We've explored the local and national trends,
We have.
the affordability challenges and opportunities, and even the psychological aspects of buying and selling real estate.
And most importantly, we've emphasized the need for careful research, expert guidance, and a personalized approach to decision making.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So for our listener, we hope this deep dive has provided you with valuable insights and a deeper understanding of the housing landscape in Comal County, particularly in zip code 78130.
Right.
Remember, knowledge is power,
It is.
and we encourage you to continue exploring,
Yeah,
asking questions, and seeking out the resources that will help you achieve your housing goals.
absolutely.
And as always, if you have any further questions or topics you'd like us to explore in future deep dives,
Yeah,
please don't hesitate to reach out. We love hearing from our listeners.
we do.
Until next time, happy diving.
See you later.